My name is Mark Flournoy. I'm with moreprogress.com. Today you get 2 key strategies that have proven to help people survive and even thrive during tough times. This video picks up where part 1 left off. Each covers a complete success strategy so you can watch them independently. But let's continue with a quick intro and then hop into some meaty content. In fact, these strategies worked during America's Depression of 1929. And if these strategies worked in the worst of times, then they will work for you today. Let me mention that this video came about because I got fed up with all the doom and gloom the media's been throwing around. It's like they're trying to scare people into a panic. I got so tired of it that I decided to do something. I researched what actually happened during the Depression. The focus was to answer this key and critical question. How can you succeed even in an economic depression? The surprising answer is that some folks not only survived, but they actually thrived during those tough times. Their key strategies were put in a report called Secrets of Millionaires of the Depression Era. You get a couple of tips from that report right now. Today's tips comes from a guy who not only lived through the Depression, but he was responsible for driving the country out of that dark time. I'm talking about former President Franklin Roosevelt. He identified 2 vital qualities needed to survive the Depression. Here's what he said. The overwhelming majority of Americans are possessed of 2 great qualities, a sense of humor and a sense of proportion. This might not sound like much, but let me unfold it and you'll be surprised at what we find. So the 2 key qualities are a sense of humor and a sense of proportion. We covered humor in part 1, so now let's take a look at why a sense of proportion can help you succeed in tough times. There are 3 valuable points that'll let you turn this key quality into gold. Having a good sense of proportion was perfectly illustrated by the genius Albert Einstein. He said, "When a man sits with a pretty girl for an hour, it seems like a minute. But let him sit on a hot stove for a minute, and it's longer than any hour." That's relativity. This brilliantly illustrates why your problems can seem so much larger than they are. If unchecked, your problems can seem as painful as sitting on a hot stove. Don't let them. Keep your sense of proportion, shift your focus, and just keep making more progress. Realize that people have a tendency to focus only on themselves and blow their problems out of proportion. But during economic tough times, it's important to realize that many people are having the very same problems. It isn't just you, and it might not even be your fault. So cut yourself some slack, stop beating yourself up, and refocus that energy towards making more progress. Secondly, I'll share a somewhat personal story. Early in life, I had a business failure. For me, it was like going through the death of a child. One day, I was trying to make it all work, but there were so many things to do, so many obligations. It was nearly impossible for me to meet them all. But I was trying anyway, and finally, out of exhaustion, I fell asleep. The next day, I woke up in a panic. I thought to myself, my God, I lost a day. But then suddenly I realized that all the pressures of the world that I seemed to have on my shoulders, they didn't crush me like I thought they would. I realized that the night before, the sun had still set just as it always has. And the next morning, the sun rose just as it always has. So it allowed me to put things in perspective, to put things in proper proportion, that this too shall pass. When I changed perspectives, I found new solutions. And you can too. Now you might be wondering, is this just positive thinking or is there some science behind it? Actually, there is research that explains why keeping things in perspective pays huge rewards. Listen to this. In 2004, psychologist Barbara Fredrickson of the University of North Carolina conducted a study. She divided test subjects into groups. One group watched movie clips that evoked fear and anger. The other watched movie clips that evoked joy. Afterwards, each group was asked to list up to 20 things they'd like to do right then. Which group came up with more ideas? What do you think happened? Well, those who viewed joyful films wrote down twice as many answers as those who saw film clips that evoked anger and fear. This proves that when you let go of fear by changing your perspective, you find new solutions to your toughest problems. Notice that you don't have to work any harder. You don't pay any cost at all. You just collect the reward. Isn't that what you want? Now there are 3 vital keys to maintaining the right perspective. You get them in the free report. So be sure to drop by fearintofaith.com. Now let me address a frequently asked question. Will there be a depression? I answer that question and give you insight from some very sharp people in the free report. But know this, the smart strategy is to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. That's why I created this free report. It's so that you could make the worst of times your best. In that report, you'll also find out why people are actually hardwired to fail in today's environment and how to avoid it. That's actually research from the field of brain science. And how to flip the bad news so you actually become stronger instead of weaker. And there's many more facts about the depression and how to thrive in it. Go ahead, grab the free report from www.fearintofaith.com. I will see you there.